are you? And where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome to People Making Money. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel, and we're here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time to talk about job hunting, building a business, and building wealth, the whole financial side of life. So I'm back live now after a couple days off for the Jewish holiday. I hope you enjoyed watching those classic episodes for the last couple of days. Didn't want you to have to go without, but it's nice to be back. So today's topic is something that I've experienced myself to a certain degree. Uh, First of all, in one of my all-time favorite TV shows. So I don't know about you, but always have been a big fan of the TV show Friends. It was an NBC show on from I think 2001 until 2011 or something like that. It was on for 9 or 10 years. Of course, the absolutely beautiful Jennifer Aniston is one of the actresses in the show. There's an episode. It's in the second season of the show. I think I want to say yes, episode 8. It's called The One with the List. So Ross, Monica's brother. I'm going up on the name of the actor who plays Ross, but he's also a fantastic actor. And I understand that for much of the last couple of decades, he's been directing theater in Chicago. David Schwimmer, originally a Los Angelino. Anyway, he's trying to decide whether he wants to be with Rachel or Julie. Sorry, I don't know how he could possibly be debating that question, but that's beside the point. Anyway, the three of the friends who are doing well, Monica, Chandler, and Ross, doing well financially. So they want to go to a concert of Hootie and the Blowfish. Now, I have no idea. I mean, I had heard of them, but I had no idea what they were. But anyway, the other three members of the group, Rachel, Phoebe, and the character played by Matt LeBlanc, sorry, I'm going up, Joey, they are not doing well financially, so they can't afford to go. And there's conflict because of that between the two groups of three friends. And at one point, one of them, and I believe it's Monica, says, we're not going to feel guilty because we're doing well financially. And this is a phenomenon sometimes known as wealth guilt. And so that's when I experienced it the first time, it was actually, no, I take that back. This wasn't the first time. I experienced it watching that television show, but it resonated with me because when I had my real estate company before I joined the Navy, I was doing well. And I had always wanted to get a convertible BMW. It would have been a 3 Series at that time. And I finally got to the point where I could afford it. So I bought this beautiful car, white, paint, gray leather interior with a black top, and I remember picking it up from the dealer and putting the top down, and I'm driving around Los Angeles. And the next morning, I drive to the synagogue where I prayed every morning, and I look around at the other cars and such, and I think to myself, why did you buy such an expensive car? I mean, you should have given the money to charity. And I felt incredibly guilty about it. And I ended up speaking to someone who at the time I respected, and he basically said to me, "Look, you work hard, you can afford this, and so there's no reason why you should feel guilty." And I'd like to say that that solved the problem, but it did not. I did feel guilty for quite a while. Um, until the first time the car got damaged, and then I felt like that was sort of, cosmic payback for having gotten the car. But in any event, it's a real phenomenon, right? And there are many ways that it can manifest itself, and perhaps the worst way is that it can prevent us from becoming successful, financially successful, because we don't want to risk the disapprobation, the sense that our friends are jealous of us, or putting us down because we're wealthy, or thinking that we're putting them down because we can afford things that they cannot, even though we're not doing so. Right? The psychology of this gets pretty complex pretty quickly, as my friend Michael likes to say. And so I wanted to explore a few ideas with you on this subject of wealth guilt. And if you are are feeling like there's some kind of resistance to your becoming financially successful, and i.e. that it's, the opportunity is there, and for some reason you're procrastinating, or you seem to be sabotaging yourself. So these may be, or one of the issues may be that you have internalized some wealth guilt, and it's coming out in these ways of self-sabotage. Excuse me. It's a chilly day here in Los Angeles. So I know for myself, uh, I mean, I grew up very middle class, and I love my dad. So don't get me wrong when I say this, but my dad, uh, coming from the sort of Wisconsin, Minnesota area of the country, he had a very populist perspective to his beliefs and his value system. And one of the beliefs that I got from him that I didn't realize until I had started my business and I was in my kind of mid late 20s was a sense that anybody who was wealthy, um, had become so through nefarious means, either themselves or their families from whom they inherited the money. And that, of course, is not true. There are people who get wealthy through nefarious means, but that's not by any means all people. And even if it were, that doesn't mean that we're going to use we're going to do bad things or do unethical things or cheat people in order to become wealthy, right? We can become successful while staying true to our values. And so it created a weird dynamic in that I had started my real estate company, and I found that I was in essence sabotaging myself. And when you think about it, if I'm going to people have who own buildings that I could potentially manage, right? But almost by definition, those people are wealthy, and yet in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, of course, they only have this building because they cheated somebody, right? And that was clearly not the case, right? So my inner values were at odds with the success I was trying to achieve, and in so doing, essentially, I had to work through the wealth guilt I was experiencing. And once I did that, and it took a little while, it took me, I'd say, the better part of a year, and really being kind of immersed, if you will, among wealthy people. I got involved with the Los Angeles Jewish Federation, where a lot of the people I mean, from my perspective, everybody was wealthier than me, although that turned out not quite to be the case. But a lot of very wealthy people, very successful people there, especially in the real estate division, which was what in what I was involved. And I realized these were almost all of these people were good people, ethical people, charitable people, right? They were giving tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars to communal services charity, along with donating their time and expertise. And so the image I got of how people had become wealthy that I got from my father was wrong. And so, like I said, I have a few thoughts on this phenomenon that I want to share with you, so that we can hopefully, if you are sabotaging your own success, maybe this will help you get through, um, that problem, work through it, and be able to, deal with it. Um, okay, there we go. There was a weird thing on my notes, and you'll be able to deal with it, and move forward, in a better mindset that will help you become successful. Okay, so, why is wealth guilt a problem? What can we do about it? Well, first of all, as was demonstrated in this episode of Friends that I mentioned, being wealthier than friends and family can create a feeling of loneliness. Okay, there was a time when my income was higher than the combined income of all four of my immediate family members, right? And I was young. I was in my 30s, and it was just, I felt very disconnected from my immediate family, because of it. Especially since both my parents at the time worked for me, right? And then my older sister, I think, came to work for me as well, or maybe it was my younger sister, right? It was very weird. It was very lonely because on the one hand, I was kind of their boss, but I was their child or their sibling. It was very, the family dynamics were very messed up. And I never really talked to my parents about money, nor did I with my sisters, unless it was they needed money and I was giving it to them, kind of thing. And they kind of resented that. That I was able to do that. And from my perspective, I just felt, well, I'm your brother. Uh, I'm obligated to help you. That's kind of the beginning and the end of it. Um, but they had kind of their own shtick, if you will, with money. So it can be very lonely when there's a wealth or an income gap, between you and your friends and family. And it can also be a difficult thing where a friend or a family member, they need help. You're in a position to offer it, but you may be reluctant to do so because they may interpret it as you lauding the fact that you are wealthier or make more money than they do over them, all these kind of dynamics. So, I think that, depending on who the people are and what the relationship is, these conversations probably need to take place, and preferably take place when there isn't a financial need on the table, right? So, and they can be difficult, and uncomfortable, right? Um, with family members, hopefully it's a little bit easier because there's sort of a presumption of intimacy, emotional intimacy, of course, with family members. Although there it can still be difficult. And with friends, again, it can be tough because, I don't know about you, but I don't discuss the details of my finances with people in general. It's nobody's business. But then when it is necessary, it can be difficult, and so I hold the information to what's necessary. And I don't know. Having been bitten on about this a couple of times, I'm just very careful about how I handle it. Nonetheless, it needs to be dealt with forthrightly when it needs to be dealt with, right? And so, like any difficult conversation, I always, or not always, but I do my best to preface it by saying I need to have a difficult conversation with you. That usually puts the person on their guard, and then things can proceed from there. So, you know, uh, when necessary, the conversations need to happen. And by the way, one conversation won't necessarily do it. Okay, if it, most of us, I think, have unresolved issues around money that we got from our parents or whomever else, and it can take work to get through them, or at least to get through them, vis-a-vis the person with whom you have the relationship. So, um, be thoughtful about it, in the sense of think it through before you start, and but then also be open when, if the person comes back at you with something that, maybe there is some truth to what they're saying, even if your initial response is to kind of get your back up about it. Okay, so it can be lonely, and w- relationships are they are more important than money, I think, and so we need to push through and deal with the financial issues to maintain the relationship. Okay, the next thought I have is, you may feel like you're leaving people behind. So, another aspect of success guilt comes from the sense that maybe the people you grew up with, um, just aren't keeping pace with you financially. And as a result of the fact that you're doing better, you've developed new friends, new relationships. And so then what do you do about those previous relationships? Do you let them kind of taper off and die? Or do you do your best to maintain them? And if so, on what terms? Okay. Uh, Look, you may be leaving the people behind. And if if for whatever reason the other people are making it difficult for you to maintain the relationship, it may be the right answer to kind of let those relationships lapse. That is one option. And I think we need to keep in mind, every relationship has at least two people involved in it. Okay. Both people have to want to maintain the relationship for it to endure. And if one doesn't, okay, the other person isn't going to be able to maintain that relationship. That is just the facts of life in in that sense. So, uh, it may be that the best decision is to let, sort of leave people behind. Okay. But on the other hand, I wouldn't make that relationship without exploring the value that, any particular person has in your life, and the value you have in their life, right? And making that assessment, and then talking that through with the person. Now, of course, I'm not talking about acquaintances. I'm talking about people with whom you have a substantial relationship. So, you know, one of the key signs is if you are just unable to talk about these kinds of issues with the person, then perhaps the relationship is not as close and as deep as you thought it was. Maybe it was based on something or someone that you no longer have or are, and so that alone may be the answer to the question, do I move on? Okay. Now, the person may resent your moving on. Okay? And if they reach out, so I think we need to be open to, well, maybe we assess this incorrectly, right? Maybe I'm a bigger part of this person's life than I realized. Okay. Maybe this person is a bigger part of my life than I realized. Okay. So, uh, again, these are complex questions. There's no pat answer to them, but the sense that we may leave people behind, our high school friends or our college friends, we may be leaving them behind, could be holding us back, and it shouldn't. It's just we need to be aware of the potential for this dynamic, and deal with it consciously rather than let it sort of fester in the back and have its impact on us, despite what we otherwise are looking to accomplish in our life. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, um, we may feel pressure to share or fix things. Okay, now this is my thing. I guarantee you. Okay, and this dynamic played out with me in my family. I mentioned both my parents worked for me at one time. By the way, they were divorced. Okay, and had been divorced for quite a long time. Um, both of my sisters at various times worked for me, and on the one hand, they were grateful for the income. On the other hand, on some level, I think there was some resentment there as well, and so you know, family dynamics can be difficult, and I think we have to keep in mind that just because we have financial resources or greater financial resources than someone else, that doesn't mean A, we're obligated to share the money or fix things, or B, that we should. Okay. Maybe on some level, because they're a family member, there is some obligation there, but it may not be the best thing to go in and fix things. So I don't want to get into a personal example in this case because, not a right thing to just to disclose this. But so, oh, here, okay. So when I was in the Navy as a chaplain, many times, especially younger sailors, would come to me because their chief petty officer had told them to, and said, you need to go talk to the chaplain, and what's up, shipmate, kind of thing. And they'd say, well, I think I'm going to get kicked out of the Navy. And like, why? I said, well, my chief says I'm not doing my job. Well, what's going on that your chief thinks you're not doing your job? So, well, there's big problems back home, and I'm trying to help, and sending them money and all of that, and I find it hard to concentrate at work. Well, okay, got it. But how? And I would ask them, how is losing your job going to help out these other people? So it may not be the right thing for you to do to fix things. It may be that the people who are having challenges, you can support them emotionally while they work out the solution themselves, and they have that opportunity to grow uh, emotionally, to grow in resilience, to grow professionally, maybe. Okay. All, when we come in and fix things, especially when we come in and put money there, okay, that it bails people out, but that may not be the best thing for their long-term well-being because they're not able to take care of themselves as effectively. Okay, so the pressure to share things or fix things can oftentimes lead to more problems than it solves. Okay, but it is a facet of wealth guilt that, oh, I have the money. I need to take care of this. I need to help. Okay. Look at the circumstances very carefully. Okay. Are you holding back the person's ability to take care of himself rather than really helping? Okay. And by the way, is the person, maybe the person is the baby of the family where the person has always been helped out by others, right? And that's why they've stayed the baby of the family. But now the baby of the family is, is in his 30s. Is this really a good thing for him? Almost for sure not. Okay. So when you're feeling pressure to share or fix things, take a step back. Is this really what you should be doing? Okay. Uh, another aspect of wealth guilt is success may be met with resentment. Okay, now there are people who will resent you for being financially successful, and and this is uncomfortable to experience that resentment. Wait, I worked hard. Okay, maybe I got lucky somewhat too. I had some good breaks along the way, but why are you resenting me? I didn't come at your expense, but some people do. Okay, especially if the person has had some bad breaks and they have a chip on their shoulder because of the fact that they haven't gotten the good breaks that you got, or that anyway, that's their perception. And in these things, perception can oftentimes be different than reality, but it doesn't matter a whole lot because the person is acting based on how they perceive the situation rather than the reality of the situation. And you can sit down and talk with a person and try and help them see reality, but it can be very, very difficult, especially if someone is resentful. And it can be, again, very uncomfortable to experience that resentment. And so the desire not, maybe we witnessed somebody acting resentfully toward a mutual friend who was successful, and we start thinking, I don't want to be treated like that, right? That can be sort of a basis for the desire for us to sabotage ourselves or hold back our own pursuit of success, right? Some people are going to be resentful. Okay, now maybe the person who's acting resentfully did indeed suffer some bad breaks. Okay, maybe they were cheated by someone and they lost their business or something like that. Okay, and so you may even say, well, there's some justification for their resentfulness. Okay, but did you cheat them? Okay. But by the way, if you did, then you need to go fix it, right? I mean, if someone is resenting our success because we did something bad to them, we need to fix that. That's just the bottom line. Okay. But assuming we weren't the source of whatever whatever has caused them to be resentful, okay, we can perhaps help them work through the resentment. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we should hold our own success back in order not to be resented. Okay. All right. So success may be met with resentment, and we've got to work that through. By the way, it can happen on a small base. Like, let's say you have a colleague at your company, you were given an opportunity, a great opportunity, maybe to head up a project, and someone else thinks that they should have gotten that opportunity, and they're jealous of you. They start acting resentfully. They may even be trying to undermine you, right? And in order to keep sort of harmony in the workplace, you sabotage your success with that project. Wow, what good have you done anybody? You certainly haven't done yourself any good. You have not done the company any good. And for that person who's jealous, you haven't done them any good either. Okay. Your not being successful is not necessarily going to help them out. Okay. By the way, your supervisor may be more clued in than you think he is. Okay. So if the person is acting jealously or resentfully toward you, and your assumption is that the supervisor doesn't see that, uh, don't be so sure that they don't see it. Okay. People are more transparent. Most of us are more transparent than we think we are. And if you're feeling resentment or jealousy, okay, talk to your supervisor about it. How do I handle this? How do I make sure that I'm doing my best for the company, for the organization, in light of this person feeling jealous, resenting me, maybe even trying to undermine me? I don't want to cause them harm. Can something be done? Can you help me make them an ally rather than someone resentful of the opportunity for success that I've been given? Okay. So a little kind of, spiritual jujitsu, I call it, right? Turn resentment into opportunity for the other person as well. Okay. All right. So, and just going to take a break, a sponsor break here. Here we go. When life brings unexpected changes, managing inherited property shouldn't add to your stress. Magnum Properties specializes in probate and trust real estate management. We handle the complexities while you focus on what matters most. From property maintenance to tenant relations, from legal compliance to maximizing value, we're your trusted partner through every step. Magnum Properties Inc., turning property challenges into peace of mind. Call us today at 213-264-4396 or visit magnumprops.com. So, now getting back to our discussion of wealth guilt, and I talked about several things. It can be lonely, it can make you feel like you're leaving people behind. You may feel pressured to share your wealth or your income, or to fix things, and you may be met with jealousy and resentment. Okay, so as a result of these things, you may be tempted to downplay your success to the point where it becomes a habit. Okay, now we certainly don't want to flaunt our success, but by the same token, if we're successful and we can afford nicer clothes or a nice car or whatever, or a nice house, there's no reason not to have those things if you can afford them, simply because you don't want to be the object of resentment. Okay. And so, and it does become a habit. Okay. So it's a challenge to be comfortable when we achieve financial success, especially if we didn't grow up with it. Now, for people who grew up with it, they generally speaking are better able to handle it. And this is why, by the way, you see with like people in the media business, they become fabulously successful, whereas before they were very, very modest life, and they do all kinds of crazy things. They get involved with drugs or whatever, they spend all their money, and then they end up losing it all, or they um, they get a business manager who turns out to be unscrupulous and steals the money from them. All of these things come from not being experienced with wealth, and we end up allowing ourselves to be taken advantage of, uh, and 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 so, rather than risk such things, we downplay our success, right? We hide it from other people. Okay. Now, that's not to say you should flaunt it. And if it's, you know, your natural sense to be modest, and you don't have a desire for an expensive car, fine, right? I know someone who, uh, he his goal was he wanted to get wealthy enough that he could afford to buy a Bentley, right? Okay, I mean, I have no desire to ever own a car like a Bentley or a Rolls Royce or a Ferrari. It's. I mean, like like I said, I loved having that convertible BMW, but the reason was because of the memories it brought to me, of someone in my life who had a similar car, and driving through Napa together in the car, and the wonderful conversations we had, and the fun places we visited. So for me, it was more a sentimentality that connected me to the car than it was the fact that a convertible BMW was a, fairly expensive car, right? So that's not to say we need to develop a taste for expensive things if we don't have them. Fine. If you don't have them, you don't have them, right? But on the other hand, if there are some nice things that you want, like, or desire to have, and now you can afford them, then you shouldn't downplay your success. Go ahead and have them, and take the opportunity to grow yourself so that you have you become a more multifaceted person, I think is the best way to put it. Okay, along with downplaying your successes, you might start second guessing your spending, right? This was me in the example I gave you when I bought that convertible BMW, right? When I bought it and I get in it, and the smell of the new leather and the new car smell, and I had my at the time, his CD player. You can tell how long ago this was, back in the 90s, right? And I'm frankly blasting, the Beach Boys, because it's Southern California, as I'm driving with the top down. And so, that picking the car up from the dealer, it was great. And then within a day or so, I started thinking, like, why did I buy this expensive car? Right. I should have used the money in a different way. Right. And so, having, convinced yourself that it's okay to have something nice, something expensive, you go get it. Now you have it, and it triggers guilt. Right. Or you may see people looking at you with it and thinking, maybe you see some jealousy in their eyes or something like that. Or, like I did, I drove to my synagogue where a lot of the cars were not nearly as nice. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I have a much nicer car than all these people. Why did I do this? Right. Well, the reason I did it was because I could afford it, and it was the by the way, long term, the car brought me a lot of pleasure. I really enjoyed having that car. So these are the various issues with which we have to deal. But um, and by the way, you may second guess your spending and decide, it really was a mistake to buy this. Okay, so now you've learned something, you've grown, right? We all make mistakes. Okay, so don't beat yourself up for the mistakes. Don't allow wealth guilt, sorry, to overtake you. Learn and grow, and move forward a little more confidently, knowing that, okay, I've learned better the constraints I need to put on myself now that I'm at a different level financially. Okay, but don't let it undermine your success or your emotional well-being. Okay. For sure, your relationship with money is going to become more complex. So, first of all, just having to deal with money, it doesn't take care of itself. Okay, so I think I certainly had the sense that once I started earning, more money, or a lot of money, life was going to become easier. That is not the case. I've never spoken to anyone who has become financially successful who found that life became easier. What happened it was or is what happens is the challenges of life change. Okay, but life is still challenging. Okay, that's just the bottom line. And so, um, having met some financial goals, okay, so now we're no longer, eager to meet our goals. Now we're at this level. Now it becomes the anxiety, if you will, comes from, oh, now I'm at this level, I've got to stay at this level, right? Because falling back feels like failure, right? And so now I have abundance. Now I need to be generous. Where are the boundaries? Should I feel proud that I've achieved this? Or are people making me feel like I should be ashamed of it? So the whole relationship we have with money changes as our financial success grows. Okay. And by the way, success, right? It's not a one-way trip. There's success and then it goes down and then it may come up again and then it may go down again, right? So we need to learn to deal with the ups and downs of financial success, and as well as possible, maintain a sound emotional framework, a sound spiritual framework, and be able to live within our means. Okay. And deal with all of these other issues that I've mentioned already, so that we can continue to maintain our relationships, pursue our goals, deal with the setbacks that we've encountered, right? All of this is, and all of these are parts of the relationship we have with money. Okay. So, don't kid yourself into thinking that your problems will be solved when you become financially successful. Your problems will change, but they're still going to be there. Okay. All right. Next. So, so most of us get financial advice. We may get it from our family members, we may get it from friends, we may get it from a financial advisor, right? And now our financial system has changed, our financial situation has changed, and that the financial advice we may have been getting may not apply to us anymore. Okay. So look, if your goal is to have a net worth of, I'll just pick a number, $4 million, okay, and up and your financial plan has been to always every month set a little money aside to invest or save or whatever, okay, and then some big project you're working on comes through, or you sell your business and now you got your $4 million, right? Well, that advice about saving a little bit of money each month maybe isn't necessary anymore, because now you've met your financial goal, your net worth goal. And so now the financial advice you need is, okay, how do I use the wealth that I have in order to take the next step in my life? Okay. And the people who have been giving you advice up until now, they may not be able to make that paradigm shift, okay, and help you in the next stage of your financial journey. Okay, so this can tie into the leaving people behind thing. Well, I'm not going to drop my financial advisor. He's been with me all these years, and now that I've met my goal, I can't let him go, but he may not be the right person to help you on the next stage. Okay. And if he's not, then you're not doing him or yourself any favors by hanging in there. Okay. Maybe what was a professional relationship will turn into just a friendship, and you need somebody new to help you with financial advice. Okay. But make sure that whatever financial advice you're getting is relevant to the context of your life, and it's not holding you back from achieving the goals that you've set for yourself. Okay. And there is a tendency to do that. Oh, he'll think I've become too big for my britches, as we used to say, because I've got to find somebody else. Well, okay, he may think that, but that doesn't mean that just because he thinks it, that it's true. People think all kinds of things that turn out to be untrue. And in the end, we have to take the responsibility of doing the right thing for ourselves, or ourselves and our family. And so, um, you know, changing financial advisors may be the right decision, even though it'll be a tough conversation to have with somebody. Okay. Another thing that oftentimes, I don't know about oftentimes, but sometimes holds people back is they are afraid of changing, right? Who am I going to become if I become wealthy? Am I going to become like that jerk who, is always talking about how much money he has? And I find that so obnoxious. I don't want to be like that. And that becomes essentially we create that reality by sabotaging ourselves. Okay. Now, we should be concerned that uh, becoming wealthy or getting a high income will change us. Yeah, we should be concerned about that. Okay. But there's a difference between being concerned and being worried. We should be concerned in the sense of, okay, how am I going to grow and adapt to my new circumstances while staying true to my values? How am I going to do that? That's what we should be concerned with. If we're worrying about it though, we're letting it hamper our life. We're letting it hamper our relationships. And that's not a good thing. Okay? So, uh be concerned about the changes. Think about them. Hopefully, as you're pursuing this journey toward wealth, you are meeting some people who are ahead of you in terms of achieving what you're looking to accomplish. And they can help you. Talk with them about it, right? Develop the kind of relationships where they will feel comfortable sharing with you some of the challenges that they faced and how they met those challenges. They may have made mistakes and you can learn from those mistakes and not repeat and not make them yourself. Okay? And you can learn from their successes as well. Living through things isn't the only way to learn. In fact, that may be the least best way or the worst way to learn something is to have to experience it ourselves. If we can learn lessons from people who have experienced things and grow without the pitfalls, that would certainly be better. So by all means, be concerned about how wealth and or a large income may change you, but take the steps to stay in touch with yourself, learn how you can maintain your integrity and your sense of self as you grow financially, and set the worries aside. And finally, uh, as we grow financially, and I've talked about this at the beginning, we really may find ourselves in a situation where we're really forced to have some tough conversations and really examine or re-examine our boundaries. And these are difficult things to do. It's difficult to contemplate, let alone leave behind someone who, for whatever reason, we've concluded is has become a negative influence on our life or on the life of our family. That's a tough decision to make. And it's an even tougher conversation to have with someone. Imagine saying to someone, look, uh, we've been friends a long time. I was hopeful that as I became more financially successful, our relationship would continue and grow. And honestly, all I've gotten from you the last year is resentment and jealousy. And I can't deal with that anymore. I shouldn't have to apologize to you for my becoming successful or having greater success than you did or than you have. Right? I worked hard. I've been honest, and if you disagree with that, okay. But I don't see how we can maintain our relationship with the kind of resentment that I get from you. That's a very tough conversation to have. Okay, but you're going to need to probably going to need to have at least some conversations like that. You may have to set some boundaries. Okay, and other people may not like the boundaries you set. They may resent them. Again, they may be jealous of them. Nonetheless, for your own mental health, for the well-being of your family, okay, having tough conversations, setting new boundaries is necessary. Okay? It's what we have to do. And the fear of having to do so shouldn't cause us to not want to pursue financial success if that's our goal. Okay? So the contemplation of these sort of challenges, problems that come with becoming wealthy or earning a big income, we shouldn't let the fear of them hold us back, and we shouldn't let them destroy or impede the sense of satisfaction that we otherwise would have because we've achieved our financial goals, or at least some of our financial goals. Okay, like every change in life, wealth is an opportunity for us to learn and grow, to build our relationships, make them stronger. Okay, but anytime growth is going on, there's always the chance that some things are going to break, right? When we were kids going through a growth spurt and we outgrew our clothes, we put them on and they ripped because they no longer fit. Or we experienced some aches and pains because our bodies were growing so fast, right? Growth doesn't come easy, and growth in our financial well-being is not going to come easy. Is not going to come easily either. Okay, so the better prepared we can be to deal with the various aspects of it, the less chance there is that we'll be held back by wealth guilt, and the greater chance that we'll deal with it well and maintain what is, I would argue, is the most important type of wealth that we can have in this life, and that is a wealth of strong relationships. So I thank you for joining me today. And if you have any thoughts, comments, criticisms, links to the social media will be in the show notes after the episode posts on YouTube. I welcome them. Uh, let's see. Tomorrow, Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, is my show, Jiggers' Place. It's a chance for us, as the week is coming to an end, to sit back, relax, have a cocktail, and talk about all the non-financial aspects of life. I'm going to be talking about the 36 dramatic situations as described by George Pulte. And I think you'll find this quite interesting. So, and I think the cocktail I designed is called the Pulte. So if you want to get the cocktail recipes, please sign up for my email list, and you'll get them the morning before Jiggers' Place, which happens every other Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then next week on Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time is my show, uh, uh, Trust and Estates Weekly. My guest is Lisa McCarley, and she's going to be talking about planning for incapacity. So join me for my conversation with Lisa. On Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time is my show, Business Lessons from the Military. My guest is a veteran friend of mine, Darren Burrell. And then 1 week from today, on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we'll be back. I'll be back for the next edition of People Making Money. So thanks again for joining me. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the day, and signing off as I always do. Marie, darling, you are my